Only a few weeks ago, Max Verstappen himself openly admitted that he might not win another race this season. Red Bull looked broken, McLaren looked unstoppable, and the Dutchman's aura of dominance felt like a fading memory. But then came Monza, the temple of speed, a circuit where legends are made and weaknesses are brutally exposed. On that sacred Italian tarmac, Verstappen roared back to life with a performance so commanding that fans, rivals, and even critics were left stunned. And now, the biggest question across Formula One is simple but impossible to ignore. How did Red Bull go from being outclassed, outpaced, and even written off, to rewriting the record books at one of the most unforgiving tracks on the calendar? The answer doesn't lie only in raw horsepower or top-end speed, but in a quiet technical revolution happening under the skin of the RB21. If you want to understand how this single race could spark Red Bull's resurgence, and why it matters so much in the championship fight, then stay tuned, because what we're about to uncover might just change how you see the balance of power in Formula One for 2025. Red Bull's return to form at Monza wasn't just another Verstappen masterclass. It was the culmination of months of silent engineering battles, internal shifts within the team, and a daring gamble on a piece of technology that could have just as easily failed as succeeded. To truly understand why this victory shocked so many, we need to rewind and look at where Red Bull stood only a year ago. At the 2024 Italian Grand Prix, Verstappen could only qualify 7th and finished 6th after a frustrating race. The RB20 was unbalanced, sluggish on the straights, and fragile over a race distance. For a driver who had built his reputation on being untouchable, it was a wake-up call. Meanwhile, McLaren were relentless, chipping away at Red Bull's lead week after week. Inside Milton Keynes, tension was growing. The empire that had dominated Formula One from 2021 to 2023 suddenly looked vulnerable, even fragile. Fast forward to early 2025, and things did not improve. Verstappen himself admitted earlier in the season that he might not win again this year. That kind of statement from a four-time world champion speaks volumes about how frustrated, lost, and out of answers Red Bull truly felt. And yet, at Monza, everything changed. Verstappen didn't just win, he obliterated the field. He finished 19 seconds ahead of the McLarens, the team considered the gold standard all season long. And he did it while breaking records, setting the fastest average speed for a pole position in Formula One history, and achieving one of the shortest race durations ever recorded. The obvious question then is, what changed? How did Red Bull go from desperation to domination in just a few months? The answer lies deep in the engineering heart of the RB21. For months, Red Bull's engineers had been battling a fundamental flaw. The car was unpredictable through mid-speed corners. Add more front-end grip, and the car would suddenly snap into oversteer. Dial it back, and Verstappen was stuck wrestling with understeer. Two weaknesses colliding at the same time. A mechanical suspension that lacked flexibility, and an aerodynamic package that couldn't stabilize airflow when load shifted. At most teams, fixing this would require a complete suspension redesign, a process that usually takes months or even a whole season. But Red Bull took a different route. Instead of overhauling the mechanical package, they focused on stabilizing airflow. The Monza floor upgrade was a radical rethink of how the RB21 channels air through its ground effect tunnels. The goal wasn't simply to generate more downforce, but to make that downforce more predictable, more stable, and easier for Verstappen to exploit. That stability changed everything. Suddenly, the RB21 had a much wider setup window. Engineers could experiment with ride heights, suspension stiffness, and balance without the car spiraling out of control. For the first time this season, Verstappen was able to run a stiffer suspension setup, perfect for Monza's long straights and heavy braking zones, while still maintaining confidence through the corners. The result was clear for everyone watching. In the opening stint, Verstappen pulled away at a rate of 2 to 3/10 of a second per lap from Lando Norris. Even as tire blistering began to appear, the gap never dropped below 5 seconds. And by the time the checkered flag fell, the race was a rout. Verstappen himself admitted the difference was immediate. For months, he had been fighting a car that felt alien, one that never gave him trust mid-corner. But at Monza, everything finally clicked. The RB21 was no longer a mystery. It was finally his weapon again. But the story of Red Bull's comeback isn't just about engineering. Leadership has played just as big a role. The shift from Christian Horner to Laurent Mekies has been quietly influential. Horner's two-decade reign turned Red Bull into a powerhouse, but cracks were starting to show. Under his watch, the team often experimented with extreme setups, searching for breakthroughs but wasting valuable practice time. Mekies has brought something very different, a calmer, more structured philosophy. He restructured departments, tightened simulator programs, and focused the team on understanding the RB21's limits quickly rather than gambling with random solutions. The difference has been striking. Verstappen himself admitted that under Horner, Friday sessions often felt directionless. Under Mekies, every lap has purpose. By the time qualifying arrives, the team already knows which way to go. That new discipline hasn't just helped Verstappen. Yuki Tsunoda has also benefited, reaching Q3 and 2 of the last 4 races. For a midfield driver, that kind of consistency speaks volumes about the team's new focus. Still, the paddock remains divided. Monza has always flattered cars with strong straight-line speed and stable high-speed balance, traits Red Bull has historically excelled at. Was this simply the perfect track for the RB21, or proof that Red Bull has solved its deeper problems? The next rounds will give us answers. Circuits like Singapore, with endless low-speed corners, or Baku, with its combination of long straights and tight sections, will expose any lingering weaknesses. If Red Bull performs there, then Monza wasn't just track-specific magic. It was the beginning of a genuine turnaround. There are also strategic layers to consider. Verstappen doesn't necessarily need the fastest car at every race. What he needs is a car that is, in his words, sane enough to consistently challenge McLaren. If Red Bull can apply pressure on Norris and Piastri in race after race, they can keep the championship alive, force McLaren into risks, and open the door to mistakes. And that is exactly where Verstappen thrives, in the chaos of a long title fight, when consistency and pressure decide the outcome. Make no mistake, Monza was far more than just another win. It was a psychological reset. After months of doubt and frustration, Red Bull proved to themselves, and to the entire paddock, that they can still innovate, still adapt, and still win big. For Laurent Mekies, it was vindication. For Max Verstappen, it was redemption. And for the rest of the grid, it was a warning shot. The empire might not be fully restored, but Red Bull has made one thing very clear: they have not fallen yet. So here's the big question for you. Was Monza the true beginning of Red Bull's resurgence, or just an anomaly on a track that played perfectly to their strengths? Can Verstappen now mount a serious challenge against McLaren for the remainder of 2025, or will the cracks resurface at circuits like Baku and Singapore? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is far from over.